high-pressure energy gala. The air smelled of expensive perfume and quiet desperation, but Eliza Vance only noticed the fingerprint smudge on her champagne flute. She discreetly
Cười khoái
signaled for a
chí.
replacement, her eyes sweeping the main ballroom of the Houstonia Hotel. Crystal chandeliers glittered, casting fractured light on the tight smiles of Texas old money energy executives and the glad-handing Washington, D.C. politicians who fed off them. A string quartet sawed politely at a waltz, but beneath it, Eliza felt the thrum of anxiety. It was late October, the end of the fiscal year, and the room was thick with feigned pleasantries. Beside her, her husband, Arthur, nervously checked the knot on his tie for the third time in 5 minutes, knowing their 70-year family legacy depended on this night. He didn't know his wife was about to burn it to the ground. "Arthur, stop fussing," Eliza whispered, her voice a polished blade. "You look like the help." "Eliza, please," Arthur muttered, his eyes darting across the room. "The Odyssey grant is everything. Vance Energy Solutions is bleeding money. I need you to be nice to Senator Hayes." Eliza gave a delicate, cruel laugh. "Darling, the Vances don't ask for things. We are given them." As if to punctuate her point, a young Latino server approached with a tray of appetizers. Eliza waved him away with contempt. No, that's the wrong canopy." "Take it back," she commanded, not even looking at the young man's face. Arthur sighed and made his move. He saw Senator Hayes standing near the entrance, holding court with the CEO of Axiom Dynamics, their chief competitor. Arthur plastered on a smile and tried to cut in. "Senator, a moment, if I could." The senator turned, his smile barely touching his eyes. "Arthur, good to see you." He clapped Arthur on the shoulder in a way that was both friendly and a dismissal, immediately turning back to the Axiom CEO, aware that VS was financially unstable. Arthur was left standing alone, a ghost at the feast. Eliza watched, disgusted by her husband's weakness. And that's when she saw him. A black man, perhaps in his late 50s, entered the ballroom quietly. He wasn't announced. He wore a simple, perfectly tailored navy suit, not a flashy tuxedo. He moved with a quiet confidence, his eyes observing the room, not performing for it. A moment later, the impossible happened. Senator Hayes excused himself from the Axiom CEO and walked directly, almost hurriedly, over to the new arrival, greeting him with a warmth and deep respect that bordered on deference. "Who is that?" Eliza hissed to Margaret, a fellow socialite clutching a martini. Margaret squinted, her diamonds catching the light. "Oh, him," she whispered back, leaning in. "No idea. Must be one of the new diversity quotas. They have to fill a few seats, I suppose, even here." Eliza watched as the gala's host led Marcus Cole, not to a back table, but to table 1, the head table, where she and Arthur were supposed to be sitting. "A diversity quota," she repeated, her voice like ice, "at the head table. If you're hooked on this story already, let me know you're still here by commenting with the number 8 below. The tension in that ballroom is building, and if you're new here, now is the perfect time to join the Black Brilliance community. Make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell. Your support allows us to keep telling these powerful stories, and you truly don't want to miss what happens when Eliza reaches table 1. Now, let's get back to the gala. Eliza Vance believed that standards, like weeds, had to be aggressively managed, and the man at table 1 was the tallest weed in the garden. She stared, ignoring the filet mignon cooling on her plate, ignoring her husband, and ignoring the senator droning on at the podium. Arthur's earlier warning, "We need the Odyssey grant," was just a buzzing annoyance in her ear. She was fixated on table 1. The room was dimmer now, the spotlights focused on the head table where Marcus Cole sat. He wasn't fawning or laughing loudly. He was listening intently to the speakers, professional and reserved, occasionally making a quiet note on his program. To Eliza, this composure was the ultimate arrogance. Every polite nod he gave the senator, she interpreted as shameless schmoozing. Arthur, meanwhile, was visibly sweating. He was trying to text allies under the table, his eyes darting to his competitor from Axiom Dynamics, who looked entirely too smug. On stage, Senator Hayes paused his speech to thank their partners. "And we are especially honored by our esteemed government partners joining us tonight," he said, nodding directly at Marcus Cole. Eliza scoffed loud enough for her table to hear. "Partners," she muttered. He's probably from the catering office. Arthur saw the look in her eyes, a dangerous combination of old money entitlement and pure venom. Eliza, stop it, he begged in a low hiss. I'm serious. You don't know who these people are. We cannot afford any incidents tonight. Eliza ignored him, her gaze locked on Marcus. I know exactly who he is, she replied, her voice dangerously quiet. He's an unqualified diversity hire, taking a seat that belongs to a family that built this state. What infuriated her most was how comfortable he looked, how much he looked like he belonged. She idly swirled the deep red Cabernet in her glass, thinking it was the only bold, respectable thing at her table. As the senator continued to drone on about new frontiers, Eliza had heard enough. She stood up. The sound of her chair scraping back on the marble floor was obscenely loud in the quiet, attentive ballroom. It was a shocking breach of protocol. The speaker paused. Arthur, his face pale and frozen, whispered, Eliza, no. Sit down. Sit down. Someone, Eliza said, loud enough for her table to hear, needs to put this in perspective. She began the long, deliberate walk toward table 1. The 30-yard walk from table 3 to table 1 was the longest walk of Eliza Vance's life, and the last one she would ever take as Houston's elite. The string quartet had faltered into silence. The speaker at the podium had stopped, confused. Every eye in the ballroom, 300 pairs of eyes belonging to the most powerful people in Texas, followed her progress. The image of Marcus Cole being respectfully greeted by Senator Hayes flashed in her mind, fueling her righteousness. She was oblivious to the small red recording lights winking on like fireflies as, one by one, phones were raised from laps and aimed in her direction. She reached the head table. Her husband, Arthur, was frozen at his seat, a mask of pure horror on his face. Excuse me, Eliza said, her voice sharp and carrying in the dead silence. Senator Hayes, a man who had known her father for 40 years, looked up, annoyed and embarrassed. Eliza? Is something wrong? We're in the middle of the program. Marcus Cole turned to her politely, his expression neutral, assuming she had an urgent message for the senator. Yes, ma'am. Yes, Senator. There's been a mistake, Eliza announced, pointedly looking past the senator and locking eyes with Marcus. I was unaware we were seating charity cases at the head table tonight. A collective gasp sucked the air from the room. The senator's face went white. Mrs. Vance, he hissed, Eliza, you don't understand who this is. Oh, I understand perfectly, she snapped, her voice rising. I understand that my family built this state. I am sick and tired of unqualified people getting opportunities they haven't earned, taking seats that belong to their betters. Marcus Cole stood up slowly, his 6'2" frame rising with military precision. He was calm, his hands resting lightly at his sides. Ma'am, I assure you my invitation specified. Don't you dare speak to me. Eliza shrieked, her civilized mask finally evaporating, revealing the raw prejudice beneath. I'm not talking to you. Get this monkey away from my table. Before the 2 security guards rushing forward could reach her, Eliza leaned in, her eyes burning with hatred, and upended her glass. The dark red Cabernet Sauvignon cascaded directly over Marcus Cole's head. It wasn't a splash, it was a deluge. The wine streamed down his hair, over his stunned face, and soaked the front of his pristine navy suit. It dripped onto the white tablecloth like spilled blood. The ballroom was dead silent. 300 phones were recording. Marcus Cole stood perfectly still, wine dripping from his chin. He didn't wipe it away. He just looked at her with a profound, terrifying calm and said, Thank you, Mrs. Vance. This has been very educational. That was the moment. The silence in that ballroom is deafening, and the look on Marcus's face says it all. If you are still watching this video and you feel the power in this story, please comment with the number 8 below to let me know you're right here with me. And if you haven't subscribed to Black Brilliance yet, I strongly recommend you do. Hit subscribe and turn on that bell, because Eliza has no idea who she just called a monkey and humiliated. The consequences are coming. Your support helps us continue to create this amazing content that informs and inspires you. Now, let's get back to that silent ballroom and watch the fallout begin. By 6 a.m., the Houston Energy Gala was a memory, but the video, titled Billionaire's Wife Calls Black Man a Monkey, was a global sensation. It was trending #1 worldwide, ahead of an earthquake and a royal scandal. The image of Eliza's triumphant, sneering face as she set the empty glass down was now a viral meme, horribly juxtaposed with Marcus Cole's terrifying, wine-drenched calm. The Vance mansion in River Oaks was icier than usual. Arthur hadn't slept. He was in his home office, staring at his Bloomberg terminal, looking physically ill. Vance Energy Solutions, VS, was in freefall. Down 15%, 20s-25, he whispered, watching the pre-market ticker. They're dumping the stock. Everyone. The banks, the funds. They're all dumping it. He shouted for his wife. Eliza. Eliza stormed in, wrapped in a silk robe, her face puffy from sleep, holding her phone. It's a conspiracy, she snapped, completely undeterred. They are attacking me. I was defending our values. She typed furiously. Arthur watched in horror as her new Instagram post went live. I will not apologize for defending standards. True Americans know what's right. Hashtag no apologies, hashtag Vance values. Eliza, you're destroying us. Delete it. Arthur lunged for the phone. Never, she shrieked, ripping it away. My father will fix this. He always does. As if summoned, Arthur's private, encrypted line rang. Not his father. It was a Washington, D.C. number. He answered, his hand shaking. A cold, official female voice spoke. Mr. Vance. This is Colonel Hayes, Pentagon Liaison Office. You are requested at the Federal Building. 1,400 hours. Do not be late. What? What is this regarding? Arthur stammered. It is regarding your wife's public conduct with General Marcus Cole. The line went dead. Arthur dropped the phone. General? He replayed the name. General Marcus Cole. He looked at Eliza, who was triumphantly reading supportive comments from right-wing blogs on her feed, completely oblivious. You fool, Arthur whispered, his face ashen. You didn't assault a diversity quota. You just assaulted the United States military. Arthur Vance walked into the 2 p.m. meeting, expecting to negotiate, to apologize, to beg. He was not prepared to be obsolete. The conference room at the Houston Federal Building was sterile and cold. There was no art on the walls, just a large American flag and a long, polished table. 2 p.m. sharp. He was sweating in his expensive suit, clutching a briefcase full of prepared apologies he would never get to read. At the head of the table, wearing a flawless U.S. Army uniform adorned with a general's stars, sat Marcus Cole. His calm was no longer polite, it was absolute. Arthur froze, the blood draining from his face. General Cole, he stammered. General Cole gestured to a seat. Mr. Vance, please sit. His voice was quiet, carrying the easy authority of a man who commanded armies. Beside him sat Colonel Hayes and 2 other stone-faced officials, holding binders. They did not make eye contact. Mr. Vance, General Cole began, the Department of Defense doesn't just evaluate technical specifications. We evaluate character. Colonel Hayes slid a tablet across the table. Exhibit A. It was the viral video, playing on a loop, Eliza's sneer, the racist slur, the cascading whine. And Exhibit B. She swiped. It was a screenshot of Eliza's defiant 7 a.m. Instagram post. Hashtag no apologies. General, please, Arthur begged, his voice cracking. My wife, she was drinking. She was under stress about the company. General Cole held up a hand, silencing him. The room fell quiet. Mr. Vance. Alcohol doesn't create character. It reveals it. He leaned forward slightly. Vance Energy Solutions was the frontrunner for the $1.2 billion Odyssey grant. Arthur felt a sick, false flicker of hope. Was Cole confirmed? Your wife's performance last night, and her defense of that performance this morning, provided us with the final piece of our cultural assessment. It showed us the rot at the core of your leadership culture. He paused. The Odyssey grant was awarded to Axiom Dynamics at 10 a.m. this morning. Arthur physically sagged, as if he'd been struck. $1.2 billion. Gone? It's gone, Cole said. Furthermore, Colonel Hayes will now oversee a comprehensive, top-to-bottom review of all existing VS contracts with the Department of Defense. We need to see how deep this rot goes. This meeting is over, Mr. Vance, General Cole said, standing. Your wife was right about one thing. Standards do matter. It took 70 years for the Vance family to build their empire, 30 seconds for Eliza to destroy it, and one board meeting to erase her name from the letterhead. The Vance Energy Solutions boardroom was silent and cold. Eliza sat at the end of the table, across from her father, Robert Vance Sr. He played the viral video on the main screen for the entire board to see. Eliza flinched at the sound of her own voice shrieking, "Monkey!" "Explain this, Victoria," her father said, his voice like stone. He used her full name. Eliza tried to summon her old defiance. "Father, I was defending our values, our family's position." "Values?" Robert Sr. slammed his fist on the table. "You are a racist, Victoria. But worse, you're a fool. You cost this family the Odyssey grant with your stunt." He motioned to the board. The vote. It was unanimous. "You are removed from the board and all positions within this company, effective immediately," her father read. "Your trust fund is frozen, pending the outcome of the federal investigation and subsequent lawsuits." Eliza stared, stunned. Her recall of Vance's "Don't Ask" from CH1 felt like a lifetime ago. Now she was begging. "Father, please." She turned to her husband, Arthur, who had been silent. "Arthur? Tell them." Arthur looked at her, his eyes cold and pragmatic. He slid a blue folder across the polished table. "These are the divorce papers, Eliza. They were filed an hour ago." "You can't," she whispered, betrayed. "I can," Arthur said, his voice flat. "This is a business decision. The company must be firewalled from your toxicity. You are a liability, Eliza. You're done." 6 months later, General Marcus Cole, now promoted, testified before a congressional committee. "Because of recent events," he said, his voice resonating with quiet authority, "I am implementing the Cole Protocol. All future Department of Defense contracts will require a character and culture assessment. We will not partner with bigotry. We will not fund hatred." His testimony triggered systemic change across the industry. That same day, in a homeless shelter in Oakland, California, a woman in a hairnet and a cheap apron scrubbed a deep blackened pot. Her designer nails were gone, her hands red and raw. An elderly black veteran in a wheelchair rolled by. "Appreciate you, Miss V," he said kindly. "You scrubbed those pots real good." It was Eliza. She didn't look up from the pot. "Yes, sir," she muttered. As part of her court-mandated community service, she was handed a tray and got in line for her own meal. She accepted a ladle of thin soup from a woman she once would have dismissed as a charity case. She sat alone at a plastic table, ate the simple soup, and for the first time in her life, understood the price of a glass of wine. The journey from a glass of spilled wine to a humble bowl of soup reminds us that true character is revealed not by our status, but by our humility. Like a quiet, steady river, compassion often runs deepest where we least expect it. When we dare to peel away the labels of prejudice, we discover the shared humanity beneath. If this story of justice and consequence touched your heart, we invite you to share your thoughts on accountability in the comments below. Please consider joining the Black Brilliance community by subscribing, as we continue to share stories that uplift, inspire, and reflect the truth.